Hello, Feasters! You're listening to The Sporting Feast with Scobes and Kingy. We are previewing the action for the weekend beginning Friday, the 12th of March, and it's NRL go time. I'm Brendan Scoble. Opposite me is Richard King. Kingy, how was your week?
Hello, Scobes. Hello, Feasters. It was a monster week. I listened back to the Rugby League special episode, All Things with Josh Kursavani. I probably should have pressed him more on the fact he doesn't apologise when he makes a mistake. Because what message does that say to everyone in the sense that you're better than everyone else and you refuse to apologise? He did make a good point. People will hang it over you. But for me, I found it interesting.
I think the point he also said was, would you go and apologise to someone that spent the last 3 years abusing you?
And I agree with, and that's what I meant. And that's where they don't deserve the time.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like a good coach or, a good person would appreciate the fact that he's acknowledged an error.
But we're getting good feedback from the episode.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
No hate so far, but and we'll delve into. I know I did get some feedback in regards to wanted to hear some top 8 team lists and some potential picks from you and I.
Yep.
So we can delve into that come the NRL section of our podcast.
And we are going to give our top 8, and we'll put that up on a graphic sometime this week. Before we get there, let's get into some headlines, Richard. And Storm Queensland and Kangaroos great Cam Smith has officially retired. A couple of questions for you, Richard. Is he the greatest player ever?
Oh, he's in the discussion.
In the discussion?
By a country mile.
Now, there's been a bit of talk about him not being well liked. You're a New South Welshman.
But who? I read the Hooper saga. He's a legend. And I'm on the other side.
Mate, I'm off Hooper.
But
he just sits there and snipers people. And I wonder why. What are his credentials?
But I was more so interested to know, unless he knows some personal facts or some kind
of characteristics. But if he knows them, he should say them to support his argument.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to, because then you put yourself on the line.
Well, then you can't call him not well liked if you can't support it.
Exactly. So the guy's a legend, and more importantly, that's the type of guy you want to get a 30 for 30 doco about, because obviously what he did was provide success and provide a structure that's essentially a dynasty. And that was obviously what he's achieved in the game across many years and many different platforms has been awesome.
He's a gun player. We don't need to talk about that too much. Another gun player, Cooper Cronk, bit of controversy about his current situation. Let me set it up for the people that don't know. He's employed by the Roosters in a coaching role, consults on game plan, strategy, skills, etc. for the Roosters. And then he's also employed by the Storm in a corporate capacity, but also has one-on-one Zoom calls with their halves, mainly Jerome Hughes, and has had the odd field session with Jerome Hughes. This was signed off on by the hierarchies at each of the clubs, but some journos have called in to question his integrity for completing these roles. Do you have an opinion here, Roosters? You're a Roosters
fan? Well, I actually spoke to a Melbourne Storm teacher at school the other day, and shout out to you, Tim Smith. Happy birthday I guess this will drop on Friday, so yeah, big weekend ahead for Timmy. So I spoke to him. Neither of us have an issue at all. And the big point from me was Cooper Cronk, when you talk about him as a person, I don't think anyone has ever... he's never been in the media for a negative reason. I think the biggest issue was he moved to Sydney for his wife who worked at Fox Sports. That was his biggest drama. So I think he wants to protect his reputation, and because I think he'll go into coaching.
Yeah.
And and that's why... And when he came out, obviously this was on Fox Sports... NRL 360, he came out, he's pretty fiery. Of course he is.
He was going after Buzz pretty hard.
People were having to go at his character, and that's obviously very important to him. His credentials speak for themselves. He's been unbelievable for not only Melbourne, for Queensland, as a rugby league, for the Roosters, obviously. Everywhere he's gone, he's won. Conspiracy theory in me, this was NRL's way to promote rugby league, and... Channel 9's way to promote rugby league away from Channel 10, which obviously had a big week with Meghan and Harry. And let's be honest.
Look at you delving into the psyche of two powerhouse TV stations.
But let's be honest, when Rachel Zane's on TV, people are going to listen.
It's probably true. My position on it is that there's no integrity issue with Cooper Cronk. He can separate that himself, but there is a small conflict there.
He made it very clear that he's a coach of the Sydney Roosters.
Yeah.
If he's had a conversation with Jerome Hughes, he said that was very minimal, that time he spent with them, and obviously Cam Munster. His job there is corporate, so to promote that club. So he's got different roles. And let's be honest, if Trent Robinson and Craig Bellamy two of arguably the greatest coaches of all time. Obviously, Wayne Bennett and a few other guys are there as well. And Trent's not there yet, but I'm talking about Craig. You can't tell me that these two guys who have been successful would have an issue with it. So if they're fine with it...
If they're signed off on it, and that's why I agree, but I do think there's still a small conflict there. Moving on, Dak Prescott has signed a 4-year, $160 million contract with the Dallas Cowboys, $126 million guaranteed. Richard, well, that makes him effectively the highest paid quarterback in the game. I'd have him maybe 10th best quarterback in the league. I mean, you're always going to get overpaid as the new free agent. Just on that, salary cap's reduced from $198 million last year to $182 this year.
It's a lot of money, hey?
It's crazy, crazy money. I don't like it, but it's Jerry Jones' money. He can do what he wants. Should we get stuck into the golf?
There it is, a win for the ages.
And we're heading to the Players' Championship. This is one of the biggest of the year, TPC Sawgrass in Florida. Outside of the majors, this is the one they all want to win. 48 of the best 50 golfers going to be there. Last year, it was called off after round 1 due to COVID. Rory McIlroy won in 2019. DJ's your favourite. I'm tipping Morikawa to go back-to-back in terms. He had last week off and won the week before. JT will be there, I think. And my best Aussie, Jason Day.
Yeah, I was going to say Justin Thomas hits it well.
Yeah, it's ball striker's course.
Yeah,
as they say.
I was going to say.
I don't know what golf course isn't a ball striker's course, but that seems to be the rhetoric coming out of there. Nothing else to add?
I was just going to say it was good to see Tommy Fleetwood change across to the American competition last start, so maybe he might have a go this time.
They're all there, getting prepped for the Masters. How good. I know he's another one of your lover boys. You, Fleetwood and Spieth and the others?
No, they're too big in the stable, but maybe because everyone hates him, Patrick Reed could be a third.
Okay, Reedy, yeah. Well, on that, if you like Reed, you generally get overs because
everyone hates him.
Back
yeah, 100%.
There you go. All right, Richard, it's time for the main course NRL preview. We're going to go through 2 games and give tip in the others. Let's start with you. Broncos v Eels, 7:05 on Friday night, Suncorp Stadium.
Scobes, so the Bronx, obviously, have you heard the ad?
Which ad?
We've got Kevy.
No, I haven't heard it.
So there's an ad going around left, right and centre, obviously promoting the Brisbane Broncos is massive in Queensland, and the fact they've got Kevy Walters.
Okay.
And so big promotion for them. When we talk about their pack, Lodge, Turpin, Pangai Jr., Ricky, Glenn, Carrigan is the starting pack. Croft, Milford, they're 6-7. Tessie New, Farnworth, Coates, Mead and Asako. Asako gets the nod at fullback there. For Parramatta, Opicic will replace Jennings. So that's probably the big change there. I'm curious to see how he goes out wide. And more importantly, if they play Blake on the left or the right and who partners Opicic on one side of the field there. Last 2 times Parramatta's played the Broncos, Scopes. Parramatta has scored 102 points. The Brisbane Broncos have scored 6.
Yeah.
Quite a difference.
That's well documented, that stat.
Look, I'm not going to get into Broncos bashing early.
Yeah.
For me, there's so many question marks for them. Which Milford will we see? I think if you're Kevin Walters, you want Brodie Croft to just be the stabiliser, the traditional 7, anchor him around the field, and Milford is your creator.
Yep.
And
that's basically what Josh said.
Yeah, and that's what Cursor said on the All Things NRL podcast. Fans at the moment just want to see them compete. Their over-under season wins mark is 7.5. And I was listening to the radio this morning. Obviously, Kevy's trying to continue, get another contract and get an extension. This would be the first time, and the comment was made, this would be the first time where, say the Broncos came 10th, that's a really good result, and the Broncos are very happy about that.
I mean, to be fair, thinking about extensions, the first year of your contract shouldn't even be an issue for Kevy. I think he's got full support for 2 years.
Well, you'd want to hope so.
Otherwise, why are you signing anyone?
Exactly, and their salary cap's all over the shop. They do have a few young fellas coming through. Pat Carrigan's obviously one of those and leads the charge there. I do want to see Milf more consistent, again, what that looks like. And I was a big fan of Asako when he first came on the stage, so I'm hoping he has a good season ahead. I've tried to be positive for the Broncos. I've got Parramatta by 10. Now, I'm hoping Broncos are positive because in Brisbane, it's a fair weather fan base. I'm not talking about Broncos, I'm talking about sport in general. When teams are hot, everyone's up and about, and when they're not, it's a fizzer. So give me Parramatta by 10.
That's pretty much where I sit as well. Game 1 always brings hope, even if you're the Wooden Spooners or a terrible side. We've already mentioned Brodie Croft. I had that in my notes. He needs to be the main force there. Just one for me, who scares you from the Broncos lineup? You look at the lineup, it's probably just Tavita Pangai Jr. He's the only one that's really a devastating player. So I tend to agree. I think the Eels might be close at half time, but the Eels will sneak away. I've got the Eels by 14.
And the second one, I'm glad I've finally, when you did the run sheet, I'm stoked to know that I'm off Penrith Panthers analysis games.
I thought I'd relieve you of those duties. Kingy here, mate. We got the Panthers V Cowboys 6:35 Saturday, the 13th from Panthers Stadium. We've decided to do the two local teams because we're based in Queensland, but throughout the season we'll expand our horizons a little. Panthers are off a minor premiership and a grand final appearance last year. Cowboys off a shocker, a whole range of injuries, and they finished third last. In terms of the teams, the Panthers, the major out or the major injury they got at the moment is James Tarmo. He's a big loss. Josh Mansour, he was let go late last year in fairly strange terms.
He's a very good player, and one thing that he does better than anyone else, and if you watch him play, and he'll do this on Thursday night, he would have done this last night, his ability to get tackled and get straight on his chest and play the ball is quicker than anyone else you'll see.
Play the balls.
And in a quick touch footy type element that NRL is at the moment, he's going to generate a lot of penalties for his team.
He's going to be replaced by Charlie Staines, a bit of talent there. For the Cowboys, no major injuries that I'm aware of. The makeup of their side is very interesting, though. You got Drinkwater at 1, and then you've got Holmes on the wing. So Holmes was playing last year at the 1. The centres, which Josh mentioned, he thinks that's their weak spot. I can't really disagree. That's Masters and Thibaut Fidel. Is that his name?
Hammer.
The Hammer, yep. And the interesting part is you got Maguire and Granville off the bench. So Reece Robson starting at 9 and Granville coming on for that impact. Maguire's normally an 80-minute player, so I don't know if he's carrying an injury or they want to use him in more of an impact, or there's obviously Todd Payton's got some sort of interchange strategy that's going to work too. But I think their pack is really good. I think they're going to trouble a lot of teams. I actually have them in my 8, believe it or not, Richard, which we'll get to a little later. In terms of the analysis, in terms of stats, Cowboys won 6 of the last 10 against the Panthers, but Panthers won both last year by a combined 32 points. Panthers 10 straight home games here. Panthers, we know what to expect from them, which is why I think they might be in a bit of a dip this year. When I say dip, I mean going down the ladder 3 or 4 spots to 4 or 5 come into season, because they are now the team to chase after, and people will know what they do. Low mistake, risk-free footy, strong kicking game, strong defence. It's exactly what you get from the Panthers, and that'll get you basically a finals berth every year. Game breakers will be the difference for me. Crichton, Kickow, Luai. They've just got more firepower. Cowboys get a clean slate, being first game of the year, which I think they'll be excited by, and they'll have a lot of accountability under Todd Payton, so I expect them to be in lots of games. Kersavani obviously mentioned their edge players. I put less importance on where they play and just their ability to dig in, if that makes sense, and these are the positions that really do require that, so I'll default to Josh on that and his expertise. For me, I think it'll be tight, Panthers by 6.
I had a coin toss for 8th spot between the Knights and the Cowboys.
Yep.
Love the fact Drinkwater gets to play 1. Watching Q Cup, and I got to see a lot of Scott Drinkwater when he was playing for the East, the Brisbane Tigers. He played 1. I think he had to play 6 based on the setup that they had last year, and it wasn't friendly. He was in the front line. It's a bit different as there's only, and we spoke about this, Darren Lockyer could be one of the only people to play 6 and 1 successfully, both of them. I do expect Drinkwater's going to have a bounce-back season. I know you were completely off him last year. Penrith are a good side. I've got Penrith by 10, and it'll be comfortable, but there's enough in the Cowboys team to see the road ahead, which is quite good for them, in my opinion.
Richard, let's just give a tip in some of the other games now. Storm and Rabbitohs will have passed, but let's get on record.
I went with Storm.
So did I, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, Storm haven't lost an opening round game under Belichick.
Well, it's pretty similar, yeah.
Bellamy, and I think the Rabbits haven't won in Melbourne for a very long time, so
we'll see what happens. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either way.
I'm with you there. Knights and Bulldogs.
So Doggies have won 6 straight in Newcastle.
Good knowledge.
I've gone with Newcastle.
Well, I'm with the Dogs. Warriors and Titans.
I've gone with Gold Coast, but I just checked the betting before. Blowing
money for the Warriors.
Money for the Warriors. I'm not really sure why. I do agree with Cursor. That's probably the worst 6-7 in the comp, or one of the worst 6-7 pairings.
In the Warriors.
Yeah.
Is Lachlan Lewis playing this week? I should have checked the stats.
Feasters Scobes, big fan of Lachlan Lewis
Love
for the Dogs.
A bit of Lachie Lewis.
He's not playing. It's Kyle Flanagan and Avarillo.
It is too. Look at your knowledge. This is impressive. We need this from you, Richard. Lifting the feast. Roosters and Manly.
Roosters.
I'm with the Roosters as well. Raiders and West Tigers.
Raiders.
Raiders easily for
I
me.
think that could be a cricket score.
Yeah, there's something strange. I've heard a few pundits out there talking about the West Tigers and they're on the up. I don't really see it, but maybe I'm missing something. Dragons and Sharks. This could be a tight one.
Give me the Sharks to beat the Dragons.
They're
Scopes.
slight favourites. Oh, I love an upset. I think I've tipped the Sharks. I'll stick with the Sharks.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen. Those games are going to be lotteries, I think.
Okay, Richard, we should give our ladder, our top 8 anyway, and maybe a wooden spooner.
Yep. So for me, mate, I also delved into some additional statistics. So I found a site that's doing a strength of schedule, and the way in which they've done it's based off the 2020 season, which I know you've got to take with a massive grain of salt. And what they've done is they've ranked the worst team, they've assigned them a 1 point, and they've ranked the best team, which was Penrith in the regular season, with 16 points. And essentially, each team, you do your schedule and you add the points up.
There's points total, yeah.
The lowest points is obviously has the best schedule. The most points has the worst schedule. The Broncos have got the worst schedule, and they play of the finalists last season. They play them 15 times.
So they've got the hardest schedule.
15 of 24 games are against last year's top 8.
Yeah, that's seriously bad. So let's hear your 8 then.
For me, okay, so sorry, I've got the Bronx at the spoon. My 8, Melbourne, Souths, Canberra, those 3 interchangeable as far as I'm concerned. I've got Para at the 4, very good regular season team. Cannot be trusted in finals until they get rid of Mitchell Moses. I've got Penny at 5. I do agree with you. I think also, though, I wouldn't be surprised if a few more guys get involved in State of Origin duties, so they might drop a few games around then. But also, Ivan Cleary might look to rest at certain times because it has been a long road for Penrith, considering that they'll play the most amount of games out of anyone over this span, as well as the Storm, and management will be important. I've got the Roosters at 6. They're probably, some people are probably thinking, why so low? Kiri, Tedesco and Cordner have head knock issues, and if Kiri gets another one, I'd probably say that's almost game over. Tedesco obviously got killed by Sivo last year, so he's on the bounce back. Some people said he probably didn't recover as best he should have, but Lachlan Lamb, jury's out. They don't have a 6, and they're going to get found out, in my belief. The Titans at 7.
Yes.
That's the big mover for me, obviously. They've been really good, and we spoke about that on the All Things NRL episode. Their spine's getting better, and Holbrook's a good coach, and I'm hoping they build on from last year. I've got Newcastle at 8 because they have the easiest schedule.
And that's why. I'm just looking at the ladder from last year, Richard. So you've only got one team out from last year's ladder, which is the Sharks.
Sharkies, and I've got them at 11th.
There's always, I think, generally 2 that trade in and out. You're thinking they stick strong with only 1 going in and out?
Well, you can make a case for someone else. I got the Cows at 9 as well. It's a tricky season. Obviously, that's the biggest cliche of all time. The only other one would be the Titans miss, and they miss just.
Sure.
So that's essentially where that is. It's going to be a good year ahead, though. The Knights have the easiest draw, and their first 5 weeks are winnable games, and then they get Ponga back. Yeah. So I think that's pretty important.
So I'm with the Raiders on top. Home ground advantage. Ricky Stewart, they've got something to prove. I think they go number 1. Storm are always there, 2. Souths, 3. They are always 1 or 2, a bit like the Panthers. They're 1 or 2 injuries away from a plummet. Like if Latrell Mitchell goes down or Cody Walker, they really struggle to replace those type of players. I've got them at 3. Eels at 4. They're there and thereabouts. I just don't see them taking it all the way. They're well coached and they've got a decent pack and they'll be in a lot of games, but I've just got them in top 4, but not really winning the premiership, unfortunately, for Eels fans. Panthers at 5. I think they come back to the pack a little bit. People work out how they play, and therefore that's going to cost them a few wins. They won a lot of tight games last year. Their home record was phenomenal. I think they lose a couple at home, and that costs them a top 4 finish. Roosters at 6. You mentioned the injury concerns with a couple of their players. Cordner, who knows what's going on with him. They are well coached, so they're always going to be in the 8, but I've got them sliding down a little bit to 6th. Titans and Cowboys, 7 and 8. So 2 Queensland sides come in for me. Titans, as you said, well coached, got a lot of talent. I like what Kersavani said about Fogarty playing 7, and that takes a lot of pressure off Ash Taylor. He plays a lot better when he's not under pressure. So I think they direct them around well. They'll get into the 7. They obviously ended last year on a really good run. And Cowboys, for me, they're the big improver. They finished 14th. I think that was twofold. One, they had a ton of injuries, and Michael Morgan's the best player, arguably the best player in Queensland, so him being out really cost them. And 2, Green was at the end of his tether. I don't think he had the full support of the playing group. Todd Payton's going to come in, make accountability the number one word in the place, and I think they rocket up and sneak into the finals.
And obviously he's got previous history in North Queensland, so an AC there.
Yeah, assistant coach when they won in 2015.
So obviously,
and he did a great job with the Warriors last year.
And so see what happens with the Cowboys.
So that's my 8. We've got Matt Zanis's 8 here. We'll just run through that quickly.
That's work experience kid. Let's make sure.
The work experience kid. Well, I don't call him that anymore because he took your seat for an episode.
And he will continue to do so, but he's still a work experience kid.
He's gone South Storm, Panthers, Roosters, Raiders, Eels, Titans, Knights. So the exact same 8 you have, just with a few switch arounds.
Yeah.
So there you have it. We'll put that up on social media so you can see that sometime this weekend.
And on that note of NRL feasters, I do apologise with the ESPN tipping comp. So Disney essentially owns that now. So you'd notice that if you've been involved with footy tips in previous years, you had to re-log in, change all your details and everything else. And it was a bit of a pain. I'm really stoked to say that we've got more than 50 people involved. Every Monday, we'll be doing a review of the tipping comp, giving shout-outs to who did really well and maybe who didn't do so well. Just so you know in there, the Sporting Feast name, we're going to set that all to away teams and the margin every week to 7.
Yeah.
So the Sporting Feast will take away teams every week and the margin to 7. So if you're going worse than that, then you'll probably get called out.
And you're just on there as Kingy, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm on there as Kingy. I did like the name Better Than Scopes.
Better Than Scopes.
There was a name on there, Better Than Scopes.
Good friend of mine, Annie, she will not be listening and taking pot shots at me, but we'll see if that rings true. Also, if you want to join the tipping comp after it starts, definitely do so. We're going to have weekly prizes, so you're still in the running for them. So tell your friends, get involved, and let's try and make it as big as possible.
Box back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining.
Let's get on to some basketball, Richard, and we're going to preview a couple of games from the weekend, back from the All-Star break, and this is where teams really start needing to make a move if they want to feature at the end of the season. I mentioned the Heat versus the Bulls on Saturday, Richard. That's a little of homer pick here because I'm a Heat fan. Richard's the Bulls fan. You want a stat, Richard? This is outrageous. Compared to the Heat, the Bulls average more points, higher field goal percentage, more rebounds, more assists, and more blocks. That would automatically think a victory, but I don't think it's that easy.
Because you didn't mention anything about defense.
Well, that's true. So they also
coaching.
give up a lot more.
And Spolstra's a weapon.
A lot more points. Well, I'm with the Heat, but Miami, 7 of their last 8. Before they play Orlando on Friday, and they include wins over the Jazz and Raptors. That's pretty good form. The depth is the key one for me. Zach LaVine is the high scorer for the Bulls in 27 games this season. Markkanen and White, 3 games each. They've scored the highest points. The Heat, Adebayo 9, Butler 9, Nunn 7, Hero 7. So sharing it around.
Well, the other reason, there's a few reasons for that, just quickly. One, first and foremost, Markkanen's still hurt, which annoys me.
Yes.
Because he's really important to what we do. The second one, obviously, with Miami, they've had ins and outs all over the shop. I'm surprised Robinson. Did you say Robinson?
No, he's not on there. Not in the top 4.
There's been games where he's got him up too. Miami beat us for fun. The other thing, though, is with that fixture, that's on the second night of a back-to-back. So both teams play on Friday Australian time, and that game's on Saturday. So I think I tipped Miami by 8.
I've got Heat away from home, too strong by 7.
So I felt these were the 2 best games of the weekend. One on Saturday, one on Sunday. Indiana's at the Lakers. Important game for Indy. They're 3 games below 500. We spoke about this off air. They've got a really good roster. They're still waiting on a few guys coming back, obviously from the trade. We are also missing TJ Warren.
Yes.
So there's that. And then the Lakers obviously kind of, what would you say, slumped into the All-Star break.
They're almost
there.
in a holding pattern.
Yeah. So this is a pretty important game at Staples. Indy's on a doubleheader. They then go to Phoenix. So they'd be wanting to split that. Brogdon, Miles Turner, Sabonis, they've got plenty of good players. So this will be a good game. Obviously, we're previewing this on a Thursday, so keep an eye out on who's available and who's not. But I've got either team under 7.5 points.
Give me the Lakers. I think they're too strong, too good.
And the second game I had, Scopes, was Team Euroball. I got Dallas at Denver. Your mate, Nikola. How do you say it again? Jokic versus Luka Doncic. And not to mention, Kristaps Porzingis. So Dallas played on Thursday against the Spurs. They won that by 10. That was very back and forth and then pulled away in the end there. Porzingis played, so...
Big fourth quarter for him.
And you're going to start seeing Dallas probably play their rotation as best they can. 8, 9 deep, but they've all guys are quality, and that's one thing I've always felt they've had. Denver, and this is their biggest concern, if it's not Jokic, and if it's... Am I going all right? Jokic. If it's not Jokic, and it's not Murray, who is it?
Yeah, they need Porter Jr. to stand up.
Well, Porter, and he has been okay, but it needs to be consistent, obviously, and a second year in the NBA, he'll be a lot better. Or second proper season, I should say. The other thing I'll say, you've then got Will Barton, who's a very good player as well. I've gone with Denver. Oh, again, this is either team under 6.5 for my liking, but I've just gone with Denver at home.
Yeah, just on the Nuggets and what you're talking about there, the Nuggets are plus 15.7 points per 100 possessions when Jokic, Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are on the floor together. So, I'm with you. I think the Nuggets, they're so strong, and it's can those smalls and those role players hit their shots. I mean, Jokic is in the conversation for MVP. We don't need to talk him up anymore. Who'd you take again?
I took Dallas, but I've got either team under 7.5. Oh, sorry, I took Denver.
Yeah, I think I'm with Denver too. Dallas too up and down at the moment. They need to put their body of work says they're too up and down, Richard.
Scobes, it's the last week of the NBL Cup.
Yes.
Sad. I loved midweek sport, and there were some crazy results on Wednesday night. If you haven't seen it, Feasters, type in Tom Abercrombie to Google. He hit a buzzer beater over Cairns to break their hearts. Hamo's mob, the Taipans, unfortunately, are going horrific. It's a big weekend for the Hawks. So the Hawkies, they've got two very important games because they fizzed last week against Perth when it was I guess you could say a ding-dong battle there. They play Sydney, and Feasters already know that result because that was played on Thursday, and then they back up against Melbourne on Saturday. If they can go 2-0, they're back. If they can split them, I'd say, yeah, they're back. But if they go 0-2, that's a free fall down. Hamo did make a point of a very young side, so at times they'll be inconsistent. But that's where Brian Goorjian steps up because obviously he's one of the best coaches we've seen in a very long time. In regards to the homegrown Bullets, they won Thursday night in the early fixture against Adelaide 36ers. A bit disappointed they allowed Adelaide 36ers, who don't score a lot of points, to score a lot of points.
Yeah,
they scored 104.
104, wow.
That's now the sixth straight time the Bullets have scored more than 90 or 90-plus points in a game. They've got a fixture against Sydney on Saturday night.
Reset to Gerard. Gerard! Oh, what about that?
Richard, let's get into some football. You've got Champions League results from the week for us.
Yeah, so Liverpool, PSG, Dortmund and Porto advanced through.
Sorry, Liverpool won.
Liverpool won, and they won, mate, but they won both legs 2-0.
Excellent.
So they kept 2 straight clean sheets in the Champions League. They win for fun in the Champions League, so that's pretty important. Jurgen Klopp will be very happy about that. Porto was the big result. They advanced in Juve. So what I mean by in Juve, they played in Juventus. Now, it went to extra time and they scored a goal in extra time. Both teams did, and they did that with 10 men. Pretty interesting setup from Juve. They have had a horrific season. When I say horrific, they're not on top and they're in a bit of strife in the national domestic competition with Inter Milan on top at the moment. They've just been kicked out, essentially, of the Champions League. So it's a bad time for them and their star, Cristiano Ronaldo. So back to the drawing board for them. Liverpool, very important. PSG, that game was 1-1, and Dortmund did what they needed to against Sevilla. And obviously next week, on Wednesday, Thursday, we'll see the leg 2 of the remaining fixtures.
Good stuff. And the EPL games that are of key note this weekend, Richard?
Yeah, so 2 big fixtures. Before I mention that, Man City played Southampton on Thursday morning. That finished 5-2. All 7 goals within an hour of football. And Southampton fed it to Man City. They were pretty good, but Mahrez... We talk about Kevin De Bruyne being a very good player for Man City. Mahrez is turning it on at the moment. He was obviously very instrumental in Leicester's success when they won the title. He's a freak and he's a deadly left foot. So when you throw those 2 in, and obviously all the other attacking weapons they've got, proves why Man City are good, and they need everyone firing for the come Champions League. The games that of note we spoke about: Arsenal, Spurs, Everton, Burnley, and Man U, West Ham. In regards to the Man U West Ham game, how did Man United bounce back versus a West Ham team who has been honest and as genuine as they come? I've got draw written all over that at Old Trafford. I actually got to see that. That was the exact fixture I got to see a few years ago. And Antonio caused all kinds of issues for Man U. See what Harry Maguire does there. The Arsenal-Spurs fixture, I don't know how Spurs are outsiders. I couldn't believe that. Both teams are in action in the Europa League Friday morning. So Spurs do play against Zagreb and Arsenal are in Greece at Olympiakos. But the short turnaround may impact both sides, but the reality is both sides are impacted by that. And I trust Spurs a lot more than I trust Arsenal. This means so much more to Arsenal than it does Spurs. While Spurs want to make the top four, Arsenal want to be relevant.
Yeah,
and not to mention it's a derby, and a pretty important one at that. Spurs are, I guess you could say, the more informed team at the moment. Arsenal got held at Burnley last start, and Gareth Bale has changed the way in which Spurs
play lately, isn't he?
He's scoring goals for fun. I've taken Spurs, and that was pretty close to my best of the week. 270 is crazy.
It's a good price.
In regards to the Everton-Burnley game, you wanted this one because
Everton are pushing for top four and Burnley are pushing to stay out of relegation.
These games are fun.
Crucial, yeah.
Yeah, and generally a lot of goals because both teams have got intent. Everton, like you said, they lost to Chelsea midweek, so they want to bounce back there. I think Chelsea were all over them there. I've got Everton winning in a very much a grind 1-0.
Draw. Anything in the 8 League?
Yeah, for me, Melbourne City versus Macarthur is the big one. Melbourne City embarrassed Melbourne Victory last start. So the biggest question is, can Macarthur stop them? I think they'll give it a crack, but I don't think they'll be good enough. And from a Raw perspective, the Raw travel to go see their old mate Besart Berisha at Western United. These two sides played in the finals last year. So I'm interested to see how, I guess, the Raw adapt to that. They lost that one. I've got Warren Moon's mob at least getting a point. He's been doing a great job for them in charge. They've come on in leaps and bounds, and the biggest question mark, how are they going to go? Do they have enough depth? Do they have a roster that can compete? And I think
we're getting towards about halfway through the season.
And I think the proof's there with what they've done so far. So I've got at least a draw for the Raw.
Okay, point for the Raw. All right, Richard, let's talk a bit of rugby union, and we've got the Western Force and the Rebels playing at HBF Park in Perth on Friday night. This one we won't get into too deeply. Rebels coming off 2 heartbreaking losses, and the Force getting their first victory in a number of games. Where do you sit?
Well, let's ask a better question. Will the Rebels score a try?
Yeah, they will this week. They will.
Interesting.
Good question. Thanks, Richard.
No, you're welcome. I've got the Rebels. I think they'll kill them.
Yeah, I'll get to that a little bit later and take to the bank.
And the other thing with that one is the Force had to work really hard with 14 men. How much does that add up?
Takes it out a little bit. I agree. The bigger game for us Queenslanders here is the Brumbies V the Rebels, Saturday night, 6:45 from GIO Stadium. Brumbies, 6 of the last 7. Last loss was to the Reds at Suncorp in a game before the finals last year. And they've won 18 of 19 at home, the Brumbies. So obviously a bit of a fortress they got going there. Close win over the Rebels last week, could have lost. So comes down to a tight one. Reds also won 6 of their last 7. Their only loss being to the Brumbies in the finals last year. So both teams putting it together. Very rare to talk about 2 Australian sides winning 6 of their last 7 in Super Rugby. It's because we're not
big asterisk
across the ditch there. But anyway, Reds have made 2 changes to the 15. Vunivalu, Suiasi. Vunivalu on the wing. This is what I've been fearing, Richard. That means Pateo moves to 13, Pasami to 12, Hamish Stewart, very unlucky, straight out of the 22. I thought he had a strong start to the season. I'm a little bit surprised, but that's a big reshuffle there. Solokai Loto returns from suspension in the second row. Suru Uru to the bench, and Sam Wallace out of the 22. That's unlucky. Uru's been playing well, but Solokai Loto Wallaby comes straight back in after his suspension. Brumbies make one change. Falau Fainga starting hooker for Connell McKerney. I have fears for the Reds that they won't offer enough variety in attack in this game. Brumbies obviously have a very good set piece, so do the Reds, so I think it'll be a bit of a wash there. A lot of strong ball runners in the Reds backline with all the players that they've picked, but do they have enough variety in attack? And obviously Brumbies' defence is phenomenal. They've only conceded 2 tries in the first 3 games. So it's going to be a super tight one for me. Maybe luck, maybe a red card somewhere, as you've pointed out during the season, could determine the fate here. I've got Brumbies by 3.
Yeah, I went with Brumbies as well.
And we'll get to Six Nations just briefly. The only game we'll talk about here, England v France. England here smarting after their loss to Wales, probably through a couple of rough decisions, and they want to play spoiler here for the Six Nations. France need this game still to play Wales, and the winner of that will go and win. England 19 of their last 22 at home, and 6 of 7 against France the last 7 times they played. For me, I think England are going to go bang here.
You'll find out a lot about England this week. If they roll over, they're clearly out. They're just tapping out for this competition.
Eddie Jones won't let.
Well, that's the thing. Well, Eddie Jones is arguably a very, very good coach. And obviously they're filthy against Wales and they want to play Ruiner.
Do you got England?
Yeah, I went with God Save the Queen. It's been a tough week for the Royals, so they need this.
That's true. Are they even Royals anymore? So do we need to mention that? Richard, Group 1 horse racing.
Lonro, he's coming. He's going to get there. Yes, Lonro won it.
The All-Star Mile, 1,600 metres from Moonee Valley. Arcadia Queen's the favourite, $3.50.
Death Valley is such a tricky track in regards to Flemington. Flemington, you can loom around there. Like, you got more to work
Every horse
with.
has got a chance.
And it's just a bigger space, whereas Death Valley, if you're at the back, geez, it's hard work.
Yeah, you got to go 6 wide or you got to play for luck.
I thought Shout the Bar was a very big price. Michael Walker has been talking this up all week and you're getting 20s and 5s. It's second up and an on-pacer, so I think it ticks a few boxes. Ran third first up. So
On-pacer helps. I thought a match race between Arcadia Queen and Probabile, which are the two favourites, no surprises. Probabile drawn terribly again in 10. Arcadia Queen in the 5, I think that gives her the edge.
Probabile has been fantastic, hasn't it?
Yeah, gun. Second race, we'll look at Coolmore Classics, 1,500 metre fillies and mares. Big field here, Forbidden Love, the favourite at $6.
I'll tell you later.
Okay, I like it, and that lady's coming right now, but I like Ice Bath in that race.
Ice bath, nice.
Ice Bath.
Is that a...
Might need one after the
I was
sweat box
about
we're
to say.
sitting in here. Take it to the bank, Richard, and you went 2 for 2 last week, so I'm expecting
pressure.
the same again.
Can I just put a caveat on this?
can.
It was a very difficult week. Because it
Oh,
was
to find something, yeah.
no, it was because you got to narrow it down. And I had a few things I liked. And I'll just quickly mention this.
Go on.
So Southampton on Sundays, when they play,
Yep.
games they play in, there is 4 goals or more.
Okay.
And in their game against Brighton, the over-under is over 2.5 at $2.34.
So why don't you take that?
Because I like these two a bit more.
Okay.
And
You're giving yourself an out here in case one
yes,
of them goes down.
and I'm hoping the Southampton one covers me.
Standard.
This will turn into over 3, no doubt. Look, Coolmore Classic, I don't know how Forbidden Love isn't in the finish.
Sure.
That surround stakes performance
But
was...
just bad luck, basically, is the only way it's on the finish. No, I'm serious.
yeah,
It
essentially.
destroyed the field.
And the thing was, that was over 1,400. This is over 1,500, and it was going away from them. It was gapping them.
Yeah.
So I think the distance won't be an issue. There is suggested rain,
Yep.
and it's got no issues on soft and heavy as far as I'm concerned. Now, I know you give me stick, but I like to accumulate. So I'm just going Forbidden Love the place at $2.50. I'll have something on the $6 as
When
well.
are you going to learn, mate? Honestly, do we know? I'm just looking it up now. Do we know what our mate's riding that day in that race?
Don't throw me in your boat. You've got some very harsh words for Glenn.
I'm just looking for it. Oh, here we go. Tricky Gal, $14, gate 11. That's sweet. Bossy will be 5 wide. The trip there. Okay, that's your best. My best, I'm at the golf once again. Apologies. Back to the well. This has already started, but feasters, if you've been following the socials, you should be ahead the last few weeks. I'm taking Jason Day to finish in the top 30 at $2.40. He tied 8th here in 2019. He's a big tournament player. He's coming into a little bit of form. He was pushing for top 10 last week and had a shocker in the final round. Just need to avoid that bad round, and he will go close. Thought about top Aussie. Leishman's there. Adam Scott plays really well at the players. So
Got some, yeah.
I went a bit of safety here, and hopefully top 30 for Jason Day, $2.40.
Yeah, nice. And that's one you'll need 4 days for it.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the
Sorry,
trouble.
Tristan, you won't get paid Saturday morning.
Look, Scopes, my value plays in the rugby league. I don't like generally going on Friday nights because last year I didn't go very well on Friday nights. So I'm hoping it changes around this time. This one's called Con. Connor Watson is starting.
Okay, yep.
That's his nickname. I make up nicknames for everyone. Connor Watson's starting 13 this week for Newcastle Knights. He doesn't generally play there. That's a change that's happened off-season. He's played for the Roosters at fullback and halfback and hooker.
I was going to say, he's not a very big 13.
Well, he has put on some kgs. I had a sneaky look at his Instagram just to make sure as he put on some
right.
weight. But I think with the rule interpretation changes and all the speed and tied forwards at the end of halves, I think he's going to have a lot of fun. And I definitely expect him to be getting bulk line breaks each week. That's why he's there. Not to mention no Ponga, so I could see him being used in a lot of the moves. $5 any time is ridiculous.
Okay.
And you're getting that for a starting lock who's
With
going to be
ball
playing
skills.
in the middle of the field with ball skills. So like you said, I couldn't believe the $5 there. So that is Newcastle v the Bulldogs. That's the early game on Friday. I've gone Connor Watson anytime try scorer at $5.
Excellent. Well, let's just hope he does score, but they don't win by too much because I'm a little bit the other way in my value play. I'm going to 3-leg multi at $6.97. And I've taken a leaf out of Richard's book. I've named this one. And this one is called That Line Looks Fine. So we're taking 3 teams at the line. We'll take Bulldogs plus 5.5 against the Knights. I think they're probably the best outsider of the weekend in the NRL. I'm going to take the Rebels minus 2.5 against the Force. We talked about that. We think the Rebels are too strong there for the Force. And then the Six Nations, England minus 1.5 against France.
England, are you?
Yeah, they do. They cost me and the Feasters a multi last year. So we're due there for England to pay us back. So that one comes out $6.97.
Yeah, nice. Bit of value from us everywhere. I was very close to tipping Shout the Bar.
What price is that?
21s.
Oh, there's another out for you.
I'm trying to get bulk outs here because
there was one I liked in Sydney. What was it? Looks like Elvis. Something about Elvis. Yeah. It's in a race with Cryoderis, and it's about $2.60, and looks like Elvis is about $17. So
blast.
There's my little out for Richard. Feasters, big episode. The first NRL week back, so it's been a big episode. We've got a special guest next week. Richard's going to talk us through.
Yeah, our AFL, all things AFL's season episode, season preview comes to us, I guess, with our special guest involved, Sebastian Windsor, who's currently involved in Queensland AFL playing, and is actually a dual semi-pro athlete, which I think is awesome. A lot of talk at the moment is basketball is transferring to AFL and back, and vice versa. So a few examples: Jesse White, Craig Moller, Scott Pendlebury at a young age. There's plenty of them. So Seb represented Brisbane Capitals in the local state league competition, and now he's playing local AFL, loves footy, and he's going to have a bit of a conversation with us about all things AFL from a Queensland level, as well as we're going to preview the season ahead.
Good stuff, and we'll get to our normal segments like Pubs Full and the review of the weekend, and we will announce our rugby guest on our next episode too. Big announcement there coming.
Lovely. Feasters, have a great weekend. I hope NRL Week 1 was friendly to you, and we'll see you Monday. Ciao for now.
Stay hungry.